This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back to another episode of the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by GSMC Podcast Network. I want to thank you guys for listening, as always, taking the time out of your days, whatever it is that you are doing to get through this quarantine to pass the time. I thank you guys for taking the time out to listen. My name is Chris Blades, and before I get started here today, I want to make sure I remind you guys, as always, to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. Make sure you never miss an episode. Also, if you could please give us a 5-star rating or a nice review, very appreciated, very helpful. See what you guys like, what you guys dislike, see the ways we can improve, all that fun stuff. And also, if you're on social media, we are on social media, so you can find us there, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We can talk, we can chat, we can debate, we can discuss. And yeah, we can get through this trying time as sports fans together. And speaking of discussions, the president, who has had, and well, obviously has had many discussions, revolving around or involving the coronavirus, COVID-19. He had a big one with the commissioners of a lot of the major sports leagues this weekend, which I thought was interesting. In a conference call with major sports leagues commissioner on Saturday, the president said he believes the NFL season should start on time in September. Sources familiar with the call told ESPN, and this is a joint article written on ESPN, but obviously, you can look this up anywhere. But, yeah. So, Trump also said he hopes to have fans back in stadiums and arenas by August and September, sources said, although it is currently uncertain if medical experts find that to be a realistic timetable, which is reasonable because this is mildly unpredictable, and whether or not you want to believe everything coming out of China is fair. But from what it sounds like, they may be getting this second wave, which many health experts have cautioned could very well happen. And that's partly because, again, until you have a vaccine for it, as we talked about a little bit on the last episode, it's hard to it's hard for it to just go away completely. Because, again, even when the cases are down or you feel like you have it under control, then it could just still pop back up because, again, there's no cure for it. And I mean, people are working on that, which, again, I give credit to all those people that are in charge of and on top of doing all that, just because they are doing work that could very well help save lives. Well, not very well. Will end up saving lives down the road. But, until that time, we don't have a cure, so we got to be cautious, moving and grooving out there. But if we're not careful, then again, we could, even when we get this under control, there could be a second wave that pops up, though hopefully by then hospitals will be better prepared to handle it, and then that will lead to hopefully less casualties, but due to the fact that it's a virus and they can mutate and develop differently over time, we don't really know exactly how it's going to work, so we have to be as cautious as possible. The president talked about wanting fans back in arenas, obviously, when it's safe and stuff, but he wanted fans back in the arena. Like he said, mentioned how the fans, they want to see basketball, they want to see baseball, they want to see football, they want to see hockey, they want to see sports, they want to be able to go out to golf courses and enjoy, just like I said, just go, which people are doing anyway, but that's neither here nor there. Going outside and enjoying, fresh air and being able to be around people and not have to worry about this kind of thing and not have to worry about going to the store and getting sick or hanging out with friends and getting sick, or just like I said, just going out anywhere, being anywhere, and even in your house, you can still get sick inside your house because, again, if somebody brings it in, then it's kind of there. So yeah, it's a whole mess. But the interesting thing kind of that stemmed from that discussion to me is just the way in which different governors handled it, or I guess not handled it, but the way in which different governors have discussed the possibility of football being back and on time, or just like sports in general coming back. In regards to that, I know the California governor Gavin Newsom addressed whether he believed that the NFL season would open in August or September with 80,000 fans, telling reporters Saturday, "I'm not anticipating that is happening in this state." It's interesting. I have a lot of friends that work in Major League Baseball and in the NFL. They've been asking me. In fact, a well-known athlete just asked me, a football player, if he expects to come back. I said, I'd move very cautiously in that expectation. So yeah, like his whole point is like he's not going to try to second guess anyone, but it's hard to determine this far out if that's going to happen. And obviously, California is not as bad as New York is in terms of like the cases and everything. Though I know they were having some issues with getting like proper tests and stuff. I know I thought the governor said a couple weeks back that they got some tests, but they were faulty. So again, that could be why their numbers aren't as high, just because they haven't been able to test properly. Though, and now again, this is not necessarily a sports thing, but I was just thinking about this. New York is really like the only major city that like everyone's main mode of of transportation is public transportation. Like even most other well-populated cities, like you think of, like California, like LA, Atlanta's, the Chicago's, the different cities, like in Florida, like any major city you can really think, or any heavily populated city you can think of, most of them drive. Whether it's like, whether or not people have a car is a different thing, but they usually just take Ubers, or they take, or like I said, or they drive themselves. Is why there's so much traffic on the roads. And not that there isn't traffic in New York, because people do still drive, but obviously with the New York system, public transportation system, I don't want to say as developed because it still has a lot of issues, but just as big as it is, it makes using that more feasible. And then because of that, you're in close confined spaces with everybody, and everybody touching the same things, everybody staying in the same areas, breathing the same air. So it makes sense as to why they'd have more cases, just because everyone's normally is so closely packed together at all times. Where for whatever reason, I'd have to do more research on this as to why this is. But most other cities, they don't have that mode of public transportation. I know I've been to LA. Most people are out like walking, or you're taking Ubers everywhere or whatever. No one's like, or I mean, some people, there's a train system in LA. I know I took one, but that's not like the main mode of transportation. Like most people in New York, you're either taking Ubers or you're taking like the subway. Or if you're coming from New Jersey, you're taking like the NJ Transit in. Like very few people are driving into the city. No, I don't want to say very few, because there are people that do it, but most people aren't driving to the city and driving around within the city every day and then like driving back home wherever you are. Also, mainly because the parking in New York is very tough. So, no, but just that's an interesting thought on why New York's numbers are higher than everyone else. But like I said, back to the sports. So yeah, so like he mentioned like I said, the governor of California mentioned he doesn't really expect that to happen. Governor Cuomo of New York said that he would love to have sports back, to up with the cabin fever. But this is not about hopes and dreams and aspirations and what we would like to see. So, and I mean, that's a fair point. Everyone wants sports back. That's obviously, that goes without saying. No one here is happy that there are no sports to watch at the moment. But at the same time, you want to make sure you're putting everyone in the best case scenario in terms of health-wise. You don't want people, like I said, you don't want to open things back up too early, and now you expose thousands and thousands, millions of people across the country with the disease, and then now it's a big issue. So you, like I said, you don't want to have to deal with that. But and yes, the risk you would run if you open the country back up too soon. And that's kind of the issue, is that no one really knows exactly when everything's going to be quieted down, when everything's going to be under control, and until that happens, or until we have an idea of when that happens, it's hard to say for certain what is and what isn't going to happen this year in terms of sports-wise. And obviously you would think, all right, August is we're beginning of April, so it's like 3-4 months away. August, September, 3-4 months away. So you would think, all right, the social distancing thing should have worked, the quarantining should have worked, the flat curve should have flattened, we should be good. But again, with not all states adhering to administering a stay-at-home mandate for their state, it's hard to say for certain where in what parts of the country are going to be better off than others. So it's hard to say for certain what states can be ready, if any at all. Like I said, there's no guarantee that any state will be ready to. No, I'm not even talking about the fans aspect of it, because I don't think it's going to happen. Even if there's football played, I don't think there's going to be fans this year. It would be too hard. Too many people packed close together. Like I'm saying, all it takes is one person at one game to have the virus in the stands, and bring them to any big stadium, Jerry World, MetLife, any of the big stadiums, and all right, that one person can affect thousands. Well, I mean, it could in turn end up infecting thousands of people, because I said, he touches one service, calls on one service, and one person touches it, then they bring it to, and it would just be a whole mess. So you don't want. I'm saying you don't want that. So that's what I don't even think. Even if sports do come back this year, they're not going to be with fans. It doesn't make any sense. Also, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver told those on the call that the leagues were the first to shut down, and that they would love to lead that the NBA was one of the first leagues to shut down, obviously, or was the first league, at least in our country, to shut down. He would love to lead the way in restarting the economy once there's an all clear from public health officials. So that's an important distinction, just because you don't want, as much as people would like for things to start up, and I guess we're closing in on a month. Yeah, because the NBA suspended play March 11th, so it is now, you were hearing this on Monday, so it's April 6th. So it's been almost a month, which is crazy because it feels like a lot longer. But so yeah, they would love to be the first to kind of start back up, and that seems reasonable. Makes sense. First to shut down, first to start back up. But again, you can't do anything before stuff is ready. So yeah, the commissioners on the call and top executives on the call were from, you had the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, NHL, MLS, WNBA, WWE, which had WrestleMania Sunday. Was weird, because again, you would think, I know there was the one big match where Gronk won the, WWE 24/7 championship belt, and it's like, there was like 30 people, or not, I don't say 30, but there's like a bunch of people in that match, and the whole, social distancing thing, and even, like I said, with the matches themselves, like, the people are next to each other, they're not really, the mandate like 6 feet apart, so it's like, even if you don't have fans, it's still kind of weird. But whatever. Vince McMahon said the show must go on. I understand. So yeah, you had WWE, PGA Tour, LPGA, UFC, NASCAR, IndyCar, and Breeders' Cup, according to the White House pool report. And like the president said, and understandably so, all of them want to be back, and they're trying to find a way to get back. And obviously, we're all waiting for them to come back, but it's hard to say for certain when and if that will happen. Also, I guess notably, the National Women's Soccer League commissioner said that they weren't included on the call, so that's unfortunate for them, because you would think, in the statement the league put out, they're obviously the leader in women's professional sports and for soccer in this country. So you'd want to think, because if you include the WNBA, you include the LPGA Tour, you're including women's league, so it's just weird that they wouldn't include that one of all the leagues not to include. But hey, I'm not in charge of the meetings. It's just unfortunate for them that they weren't included on the call. Hopefully, they can be included in future calls. So again, they're just as much a part of the sports situation as everyone else. So, like I said, that's unfortunate for them. But yeah, that was interesting. That was not something I expected to be reading about over the weekend. Was that the president was going to be meeting with, not meeting obviously, but talking with all the commissioners about when to expect or when to hope for things to come back. But like I said, for right now, I'm not getting my hopes up. I would advise none of you guys to get your hopes up too much. Just hope that by June, July, I'd say June's probably a little optimistic. Say by like July, we can at least be able to go outside more regularly other than to like the grocery store and stuff. If that's happening, then all right, I believe sports are happening sometime at this point this year. If we're in June and there's like no end in sight for this, I would pretty much pack up any chance of us having sports this year. But again, we'll see how that goes. But like I said, I'm not too optimistic yet. Hopefully, us as Americans will give me more reason to be optimistic in the near future in terms of adhering to different things, or governors putting different things in place in order to make sure that the spread or the curve is flattened. Because obviously, as many people have talked about, this upcoming weeks and month really are going to be the worst of it. And hopefully, I mean, not to say that like that's a good thing that there's going to be a lot of people catching the virus, but apparently it should go down from here if we do things right, which don't really know if we have been, but we can be hopeful of that. And if that happens, then all right, we can start looking more towards, all right, when can sports come back? But for right now, I said just stay safe, stay healthy. We'll get sports when we get sports, which is hopefully at some point this year. Because I don't know. I don't know. I think this country will go crazy with almost with I guess 9 months of no sports. If this bled into 2021, I think the country will go crazy. So, but hey, that's what we're looking at. So you gotta live with what you can live with. But yeah, hopefully we can get something going at some point later this year. But on the positive side, or on a more positive note, there was another big announcement this week, and that was the Hall of Fame inductees for the Basketball Hall of Fame. So we'll talk about who made it and all that fun stuff. Yeah, and just go from there and I guess what kind of we could be looking for speech wise. And I guess I don't actually. That's a good point. Or also, I guess talk about how they're going to hold it, because that's an interesting thing. How they're going to decide to do that with obviously the whole quarantine thing. But yeah, so we'll talk about all that right after this break. Stay tuned.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
GSMC Podcast Network. So, this new incoming Hall of Fame class, on paper, you could very well argue may be one of, if not the most star-studded class to ever enter the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. And all 8 finalists, led by the late Kobe Bryant, R.I.P., Tim Duncan and Kevin Garnett, were selected Saturday for enshrinement and will be inducted August 29th in Springfield, Massachusetts. Bryant, Duncan, and Garnett will be joined by 10-time WNBA All-Star Tamika Catchings, Coach Kim Mulkey of 3-time Women's NCAA champion Baylor, 5-time Division II Coach of the Year Barbara Stevens of Bentley University, 4-time NCAA Coach of the Year Eddie Sutton, and former Rockets coach Rudy Tomjanovich, a 2-time title winner. In addition to the finalists, longtime FIBA executive Patrick Ballman was selected as an inductee, bringing the class of 2020 to 9. It says 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, from the moment, and this is another ESPN article, but from the moment they were eligible, it was assured Duncan, Garnett, and Bryant would get entry into the Hall of Fame, but a pale was cast over what should have been a celebratory moment, obviously, as we know, because due to the passing of Kobe Bryant. That should have been a time to celebrate, and a time, and the induction of 2 of the greatest players at their positions, in terms of Tim Duncan, I guess, depending on whether you want to call him power forward or a center. I mean, you could argue he's the best. I think a lot of people classify him as a power forward, so you could argue the best power forward ever. And you have Kobe Bryant, who's arguably the greatest 2-guard in what? Well, definitely in our my generation, like the post-Jordan generation. You could say that he's easily the greatest like I said, the greatest two guard of our time. I mean, I guess the only other competition we really had was D Wade, and I mean, no offense to D Wade, but obviously Kobe's a little better. So you have that, and then that's not to disrespect Kevin Garnett in his own right, because again, though he's not Tim Duncan and he's not Kobe Bryant, he's still easily one of the 50 greatest players to play in the game, to play in the NBA. Like I said, he carried the team for a while with the Timberwolves, and obviously when became one of the first modern era super team, if you will, obviously, though they were a little bit older, with the Boston Celtics, and won the championship with them. And yeah, and then like I said, that's just the NBA players. It doesn't get to Timothy Catchings, who was a great WNBA player. I mean, just a great basketball player overall, but obviously one of the best WNBA player of her time, a coach, and like I said, Kim Mulkey, who won 3 national championships while at Baylor, which I mean, most very, very few coaches that on either side that have won multiple national championships, let alone 3. And obviously, like, so you got her, like we talk about the quote unquote lower tier coaches, when you have like a person who's won the Coach of the Year in Division II 5 times, like that's amazing. You have a 4-time Coach of the Year, and then also you have a guy who went back to back with the Rockets, who obviously he's been waiting around a little bit longer to get inducted, but again, he still got his time. And like I said, like the top of the class is elite, and then as you go through the rest of the class is elite. So, like I said, it's unfortunate that it comes. And I mean, I guess because it was always going to come at this time, just because of like the passing of time, due to they need to wait just to make sure, like, then how many every years until you can officially be inducted. So it's a shame that it comes during this time in which, like I said, Kobe won't be there to give his speech, because it probably would have been a great one. But it's still, like I said, it's still a great honor, still a great moment, and yeah, it was just unfortunate also, I guess, because normally this gets announced during the the announcement usually takes place during Final Four weekend, which I guess, yeah, it would have been this weekend. I guess, yeah, early April. I've completely the whole quarantine has got me, and I'm pretty sure I'm not alone in this, but it's gotten all my days and stuff thrown out like that. It's just hard to keep track of what anything is, because all the days kind of run together, seeing as most days are like pretty similar. Other than, like, obviously if you're working, you know that you're not working on the weekends, so Saturday, Sunday, unless, like I said, unless you have a job where you work on the weekends. But since you're home all the time, it's like they all kind of feels the same. So I completely, like, even though I knew it was like beginning of April, I completely forgot that normally, like, we should have been getting ready for the national championship. I guess maybe would have been today? Well, tomorrow when I record this, but today for you guys when you hear this, I guess it could have been. Yeah, I think it would have been today, the national championship. So like I'm saying, because no sports, my whole sense of time is thrown off, because I don't really know when and where things should or shouldn't be happening. But yeah, so like I said, so even though the Ding Aid wasn't announced the normal way, it was announced obviously amidst a little bit of tragedy due to the fact that, again, Kobe Bryant is no longer with us. I mean, the accolades of a lot of these players are superb, to say the least. You got, like I mentioned, Tim Duncan, 5-time champion, 2-time MVP, 15-time All-Star and All-NBA selection in his 19 years. And like I said, one of the greatest Spur ever. One of the best players, if not the best player at his position. So, I mean, he's elite. I mean, obviously he's elite. That's why he's in the Hall of Fame. But like I said, there's not many people that can stack up with his accolades. Then you got KG, who won a title, won MVP, and was on the All-Star team 15 times. Was a 9-time All-NBA honoree, I guess you could say. That's the word. So like I said, another all-time great during his time period, which again, if you normally have to be pretty good. I take that back. I would say that the Basketball Hall of Fame, not the NBA, the Basketball Hall of Fame is the easiest Hall of Fame to get into, just because, like, if you get a certain number of, like, All-Star game appearances, you're pretty much almost a lock to get in. And not to say that's a bad thing, because there are a lot of good players that, even though they may have been borderline, have gotten in. But I'm saying, when you look at these guys were all, like I said, elite top players of their positions during their careers, where not everybody can make that claim that's gotten into the Hall of Fame, at least in the Basketball Hall of Fame. So, but yeah, so you got KG, all his accolades, and obviously many people have run down Kobe's accolades. But just to reiterate them, he's a 5-time champion, won an MVP, should have won more, but it's hard. Like, his era was tough to win MVPs. Obviously, when you got, like I said, you got Tim Duncan, you got KG, you got Steve Nash, you won a couple, Shaq. Then you got to deal with prime LeBron. Allen Iverson won MVP in there. It's just like there was, you can only give the MVP to one guy. It's hard. It's hard to do. And then obviously, like, post his prime, it's like the D-Wade, not the D-Wades, the D-Rose, KD, Stephs of the world. And so obviously he wasn't going to get those. Like, during the prime of his career, he's going up against Shaq on his own team, Tim Duncan in his own conference, KG in his own conference for a while, Steve Nash in his own conference for a while. Dirk won MVP in there too. It's like, I mean, it's just like all those guys are all-time great players. So it's like I'm saying, it's hard. There's only so many MVPs to go out. So again, he should have had more, but at least he did get the one. 18-time All-Star, 15-time All-NBA selection in his 20 years. There's not really much more to say. Many people, I mean, I think Magic said he's the greatest Laker, which, again, worth the debate. But you could argue that there are two out of the three. You could argue all three are the best player in the history of a franchise going in to the Hall of Fame this year, which is not something that every Hall of Fame class can say. So you got, like, obviously Tim Duncan with the Spurs, KG with the Wolves. I don't know what other player. I mean, obviously, did he win much there outside the MVP? No, but the Wolves haven't had that much success in terms of players, like great players coming through there. So until like Cat or somebody else come through and takes that throne from him, KG is the best player in my opinion. I'd have to think about it maybe a little bit more, but for my money, he's the best guy. And then obviously you have Kobe, who is, I mean, the Lakers have a long, long history of great players extending back into the 60s, maybe even before then. But yeah, I mean, you could argue he's the greatest Laker of all time. And very few people would fight you on it. Some people would. Some of the older people would. But I'm saying, when does that happen where three of the best players in the history of a franchise all enter the Hall of Fame at the same time? Like I said, then you get down to Tamika Catchings, who ranks first in the WNBA history in steals, third in points and rebounds, and she also won a national title at Tennessee in '98 to go along with, like I said, the 10-time All-Star. And also, again, they kind of encompass everything you've done in the history of your basketball, whether college and professional, and I guess overseas, to get inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame. Which, again, why it makes it a little bit easier, because you don't have to just be, because they don't really have a separation of the two, of college and pro. But again, she was a great college player, great WNBA player. Seems like an easy choice there. In addition to winning multiple NCAA titles, like I said, with Kim Mulkey, she also won 600 games during her 20 years. Ed Barron once led them to a perfect 40-0 season in 2013. Like I said, easy choice. One of the better WNBA coaches. I mean, not WNBA, college women's NCAA coaches of all time. Easy choice. Like I said, even like if you go down to Division II with Stevens, won over 1,000 games, won a championship in 2014 across 40 years in Massachusetts. I mean, not really much to argue there. Even, like I said, even Sutton, who is 1 out of 10 Division I coaches to win 800 games, made a Final Four 3 times, and was a coach to lead 4 different schools to a Final Four, Creighton. The first coach to lead 4 different schools. You led 4 different schools to the NCAA tournament. I say not the Final Four. That wouldn't make any sense. But led 4 different schools to the NCAA tournament in Creighton, Arkansas, Kentucky, and Oklahoma State. So again, like, even though the top of this class is very, very heavy, even as you get through the rest of the class, I mean, again, it's the Hall of Fame, so I shouldn't be that impressed, but I mean, these are some of the best people that they are in different professions, whether it's as a player or a coach, that we're talking about inducting into this year's Hall of Fame, which is again kind of rare. And then also, like I said, when Tom Bogdanovich was a good player and a 5-time All-Star as a player, then and then won back-to-back championships. Though, again, a lot of people like to say no Jordan, fair. But, I mean, at least if they didn't have Dennis Rodman on the Bulls, who was going to stop Hakeem? Granted, you can argue who was going to stop Jordan, but, I mean, they had guys that tried to throw at him. And, again, who's going to stop Hakeem in the post? And also, I think there's a little legitimate chance that you could have got burnt out. Could you see what happened with LeBron? Just like, I mean, obviously, and he's not that MJ's a freak athlete, because he definitely is, but LeBron take time off throughout the season just to be able to maintain and play at such a high level during the finals, because it takes a lot out of you to be in the finals every single year for what was it, 8 or 9 straight years LeBron was in it, from 2011 to last season was the first year he wasn't in it since he went to Heat, so that was 4 years there, 4 years in Cleveland, so 8 years straight going to the finals every single season, playing almost 82 games every single season. That's hard to do. And I'm saying not that MJ didn't do it, because he did it 6 times. It's still very impressive, but again, that year and change playing baseball, I mean, not that he wasn't doing anything, but you gave him a little break. And so, yeah, you could argue that. So, yeah, like I'm saying, if you look at, obviously, the names that are going to draw the headlines are Kobe, Tim Duncan, and KG. But if you look through this entire Hall of Fame class, I mean, it's top to bottom. That's great. So, congratulations to all those guys. Congratulations to their families. It'd be interesting to see how they do it, because, again, you're not supposed to have gatherings of more than 10 people. So how's that going to work? Because obviously Hall of Fame induction ceremonies have more than that. So I know it's not till August, but if we're still not at the point where we can have these kind of gatherings, how's it going to go? Is it going to take place? Is it going to be a virtual thing? Like that'd be interesting to see how they would plan for that. Obviously, it's way out, so I don't have to think about it too much now. But I am curious how that would go down if it were to go down. Well, I mean, obviously it's going to go down, but like how it would go down if it did, when it does. Due to the fact that it's not going to be that simple if we're still dealing with the coronavirus situation. But again, shout out to all those players. R.I.P. Kobe once again. But yeah, shout out to those guys. And it's, like I said, this is arguably one of the better classes you could say the Basketball Hall of Fame has had in the years. Not to knock anybody that's gotten in recently, because everybody that got in is a great player or coach or executive or what have you in their own right. So they all deserve it. But again, when you look at the names and the accomplishments of these guys, it's hard to argue against any of them getting into this Hall of Fame. Where in some other classes you could make an argument for guys. This class there's no arguments to be made for literally any of them. So congrats to all of them. But yeah, so when we come back, we're going to discuss, as we talked about, the NBA wants to be at the forefront of trying to revitalize things or keep content flowing during this quarantine time. And they've come up with a brand new idea for things that they could shoot with different players. So we're talking about, and that would be safe. So we're going to talk about that, who could potentially be involved, how it may work, all that fun stuff. Right after the break, so stay tuned.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And we are back here again on the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So, the rumor, if you will, going round is that the NBA and ESPN are working on televising a horse competition involving several high-profile players. sources told ESPN. And again, a lot of things get told to ESPN, so that's why I use it as a good source. But this was interesting to me when I heard this. Discussions have been ongoing among the NBA, NBPA, and ESPN about a competition involved among several players in isolation, presumably using home gyms, that would include them competing shot for shot in the traditional playground game. Sources said details, including schedule and specific player involvement, are still to be finalized, obviously, and the league's been shut down for a while, so they're trying to find different things and do different things in order to keep fans interested, which is obviously like we talked about with the 2K tournament that's going down this weekend, though there were a lot of blowouts. So that part of it was kind of interesting, though not surprising, because again, there's a lot of people. I mean, a lot of these guys just have a lot of time to spend playing video games and such. But like I said, you see a lot of, and also with kind of not that I was going to go into that too much, but you saw a lot of people picking the Lakers, picking the Clippers, picking the Bucks, picking the Nets, which is kind of what I wondered would they do. But also, it's not that surprising if you're a big gamer guy and you play a lot of like online, whether it's like Madden, 2K, whoever, most people pick the best teams or the best players. So I know back in the early stages of like this Madden, I use the Ravens just because I like to use the quarterback and scramble. But then obviously as the season went along and Lamar Jackson got too good, it was like, all right, it's kind of unfair. But clearly there are none of those rules in this 2K tournament, because normally you're like, all right, like if you were playing back in the day and you're like, if you pick the Warriors, you pick like the Heat back in the day, like no one's playing against you. Because it's just like, why? Like I'm not wasting my time playing, because you know in the video games things can and will cheat. But again, in the 2K tournament, I guess everyone has enough pride to be like, hey, look, if you pick this team, I'm just going to pick this team. And then you see kind of how it's led to some blowouts, because you have guys like Giannis, you have guys like Anthony Davis, LeBron, who can be unstoppable, and they don't even have those great of 3-point shot. They can just drive at all times. If you master a guy like back then, if you mastered Steph or Klay Thompson's release or whatever, you could get like 60 points easy just because their 3-point shot is amazing. No, 60 points is a lot, but you get my point. But yeah, so yeah, like I said, the NBA, and I give them credit for this. The fact that they've been willing to try and do different things in order to get to keep fans' interest involved. Just because, again, like the fans are looking for something to watch, something to do, something to keep them entertained during this time, where there's not, like there are things to watch if you want to go back and watch like just regular TV shows and stuff. But like in terms of sports, there's not really a whole lot going on unless you're watching a bunch of old games, which is cool. But the thing about live sports is that you don't know the ending, you don't know what's going to happen. Same thing when you're watching like new TV shows, you don't know what's going to happen. That's why people are intrigued to do it. While you're going back and watching old shows or like rewatching movies and stuff like that can be cool, but again, you know what happened, so it may not be as entertaining the third, fourth, fifth time. Which is why, again, live sports is such a big thing, and kind of what's keeping cable companies afloat still is the fact that people are still intrigued by the aspect of uncertainty. Just like, I don't know how this game's going to turn out. I think I do, but I don't. So then that's why I want to watch to see how it goes. Plus, obviously, the betting and stuff involved with that. But yeah, so then this is another idea, and I thought it was interesting just because I am curious to see what players would be willing to get involved. Like, obviously, we're seeing, like, basically, I mean, KD was the highest profile guy to get involved in the 2K thing. But, like, it's a lot of younger guys. Like, you got, I'm saying what the oldest guys, I think probably, like Patrick Beverly, maybe Boogie. I know Boogie's been around for a little bit, but probably, like, Patrick Beverly. Most of the guys are, like, young. Well, maybe even KD, actually. But most of the guys are young. Like, Trae Young's a younger guy. Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, even Andre Drummond's not that old. He's like only in his like mid-20s, I think, was kind of nuts. Sabonis isn't that old. Michael Porter Jr. is not that old. Like, a lot of these guys are younger guys. I said, oh, okay, it makes sense that they'd be involved in a video game tournament, if you will. But when you're talking about now, we're talking about horse, which is more basketball related, which I mean anybody can do. I'm interested to see who they could get involved. I know I thought I saw some rumor floating around. They were trying to get like some of the players could be like Chris Paul and like Russ and like some other guys. Though those wouldn't be my picks of who I would want to see. But it's interesting to see who would want to get involved because obviously a lot of the issue with a lot of these things is the people don't want to get embarrassed. So you're going to be out there. I mean, obviously, again, their games are nationally or televised so people can see them and ridicule them when they do bad, which is what social media is used a lot for. In terms of the situation like this, having players be willing to go out there and potentially get not exposed, but get embarrassed in a competition like this, because we all know at the end of the day, athletes are competitive. I mean, a lot of people are competitive, but obviously athletes are a different kind of level. So when you're having people just be willing to be like, yeah, no, I'm cool with risking losing in front of how many are people tuning in to watch this. I mean, that's honestly the reason why, not exactly the same point, but honestly the reason why I don't think LeBron's ever done a dunk contest, because he feels it could be too much pressure for him to be the greatest thing ever, and then now if he doesn't live up to that or he loses, now it could be a stain on his legacy or whatever, just because obviously he could have done it when he was younger and no one really would have cared. But after he reached arguably best player in the league status, all right, now you're kind of risking it. Now it's almost too hard to get involved. So that's why he's never done it. But yeah, I'm just interested to see who would do it. Though I know people I'd want to see involved. I'd want to see... Well, before I get involved in that, I would want to say, how would the rules work? Like, is it just jumpers? Is there dunks? Can dunks be involved? Like what is it? Because I think that matters. Because if you have a guy say like, take Zach LaVine for example, who was in the 3-point contest this year, but obviously could have very easily been in the dunk contest. He can shoot. I mean, obviously, is he Steph or Trae Young or Dame necessarily? No. That was a good 3-point shooter. I think he was shooting like high 30% this year. So again, not a terrible shooter. But obviously, as we know, he's an elite dunker. And not even just in-game. Oh, he was another guy who was in the 2K tournament. He's an elite dunker. Yeah, I'm trying to look up what his 3-pointer was this year. 38%. So yeah, again, 37.5% for his. 37.5 for his career. So again, not a bad 3-point shooter at all. But obviously, like I said, we mentioned he's an elite dunker. So somebody like him, while Norman Horst he's a lot of shots and stuff, but that's just because most people can't dunk. Like, is there any rule disallowing him from breaking out some of his dunk contest stuff? And then now he could. Even if, again, Horst is not like you have to do something new every time. That he could, in each competition, he could bring out the same dunks that he knows he can do, but most other people can't. And he would win like that. So I'd just see what the kind of stipulations, or if there would be any stipulations in terms of that. Or just like, you can just do whatever. You know what I'm saying? If that's the case, then I would want to see guys like him, or maybe I'd pick guys like him to win. Well, if you're thinking about jump shooting, and kind of the dribble moves and all that stuff that can be involved now, you're thinking about, like, I'd want to see like a Steph be involved. Assuming he's healthy now. I'd want to see like a Kyrie. Well, maybe not. I would want to see Kyrie, though. I don't know if he's healthy at the moment. I'd want to see like a Trae Young. I'd want to see maybe even a Dame. Guys in that realm. Just because those guys are guys that are great shooters. Just set shots. Like, I mean, I wouldn't want to see, no offense to him, I wouldn't want to see a Klay Thompson because he's a great catch and shoot guy, but he's not as good. He's not that he's a bad off the dribble shooter, but like, these guys are used to taking and making tough off-the-dribble shots, and that's not really Klay Thompson's game. So that's what I want to see, because that's obviously what would provide for more entertainment, is seeing guys do, like, these weird, awkward fadeaways or different types of shots off the dribble, potentially, which, again, is not really Klay Thompson's game. So, even though he's a great shooter, he's not somebody I would want to be involved in a horse competition, personally. Again, it's not necessarily up to me, but... So yeah, I'm talking about I'd want to see Steph if he's healthy. Kyrie's probably not going to be healthy, so don't involve him. Give me Trae Young. Give me sounds a little aggressive, but I would like to see Dame. And then even with that, I could take a Chris Paul in there, because again, he's not Is he a 3-point shooter that Steph is? No, but he's a guy that has made a living off making really awkward shots. And obviously he's not that big, so he has to be able to shoot over things, or shoot at weird angles or difficult angles in order to get a shot to go in over bigger guys. So I won't be mad at that. The Russ one, I saw that rumor floating around. I was like, nah, I don't want to see Russ. Unless, like I said, unless he's going to be dunking the whole time. It's like, what? His jump shot, maybe it's better when no one's guarding him and there's no pressure up it, but his jump shot not like that. At least in the games. For me to be like, yeah, no. I'm like, no, I think I'll pass. So yeah, so if I were going to do 4 off the bat, and also I guess, because like, you're just going to do one horse tournament, are you going to do, is it going to be like the 2K thing where it's like it's like a big tournament you get 8, 10, 12 guys, how many, I guess what, say you get 8, because 16 is a lot. So you get like 8 guys, would you break it down like that? Or is it just like, you just get the 4 guys, you live stream it the one time, and then like, it's done, and then you get like another group of 4. That'd be interesting to see. I'm curious how that would work. But again, obviously, if they were to go through with this, the more detail, we would find out more details from there. But, I mean, my thing is this, I'll probably watch it. I know they had one of those in like the pre like NBA All-Star Saturday stuff. I could have sworn a couple years ago they had like a horse tournament back in the day. And back in the day, I mean like 4 or 5 years ago, not like in the 90s. Yeah, I could have sworn they had one of those like in the early 2010s. But I could be making that up. But somebody, I feel like that was a thing, and I didn't just like dream that. But yeah, so it's not like they've done it before. And obviously, everybody who's played basketball has played horse at some point in their life. So I'm interested to see how that would go. But yeah, no, I mean, much like anything, if it's on TV, I'll tune in. Like I said, I watched some of the 2K thing though. A lot of those games were blowouts, so didn't watch the whole things. But I at least tuned in for a little bit to see, and hopefully as the competition continues on, the games will get better because the people will be better. But I guess we'll see how that goes. But yeah, like I said, it's sports. If it's televised, some people tune in. Obviously, it's not going to be the numbers that the playoff games would be doing or would be getting ready to do at this time. But again, it's content. It's basketball. People will be tuned in and will watch no matter what. So I'm interested to see how that goes off, and if they do actually go through with that, or if it just, like I said, it could just been a rumor that they just kind of floated out there. But I am interested to see if they go through with that. But yeah, so coming up next, we're going to transition over to the NFL side of things and talk about a certain player whose draft stock I mentioned could take a hit due to this whole Rona situation, and it may very well be doing that. And I mean, you guys might have an idea who it is, but we'll talk about who this person is and why I think it's happening, and if I think it should or should not be happening. But yeah, so we'll discuss all of that after this break. Stay right there.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's GSMCpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
So, as I mentioned, Tua Tagovailoa was a player who could have been hurt the most due to this pandemic, due to the fact that he can't really show teams how healthy he is. I mean, he can talk with them via Skype or FaceTime, whatever mode of communication they use. He can run through drills and things, but they can't have. He can even get like checked by his own doctor, but they can't have their own team doctors do their checks. Because again, you can go to one doctor, they describe or prescribe something, you get a second opinion, and then obviously they see or feel something different. So it's not every doctor sees things the same, which is kind of interesting. But it's just, that's the thing that happens. So because of that, teams may be worrisome of drafting him, and that appears to be what is happening. Tua Tagovailoa, this is from the New York Post, but again, if you Google it, you can find this anywhere. But Tua Tagovailoa's draft stock could take a hit with sports at a standstill amid a report that multiple teams now prefer Justin Herbert because of injuries and the unknowns. According to NFL draft analyst Matt Miller, the unknowns Miller is referencing pertain to 22-year-old Tagovailoa's health and long-term durability. The Auburn quarterback entered the 2019 season as front-runner to become the number 1 overall pick, but suffered a devastating hip injury against Mississippi State on November 16th that knocked him out for the season. He finished with a little under 3,000 passing yards, 33 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and a 71.4 completion percentage through 9 games. Oregon's Herbert finished with almost 3,500 yards, 32 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions, and a 66.8 completion percentage in, including the bowl, probably 14, 15 games, somewhere around there. Don't be surprised if Justin Herbert is the second quarterback picked because there are no questions about injuries when it comes to his evaluation. Miller said on Monday, neither Tagovailoa nor LSU's Joe Burrow participated in combine drills, but Burrow remains the unimpeachable number 1 pick. Who may be making that pick, we'll discuss in a segment or two. Remains the impeachable number 1 pick with no serious injury concerns to besmirch his record. Tagovailoa did receive overwhelmingly positive reports from teams who were able to evaluate his medical status at the NFL Combine, and has looked impressively strong in videos posted to social media. He had planned on showcasing his skills and improvement for scouts as Pro Day on April 9th, which, probably may still have a workout, but I don't think the Pro Day is really going to happen, understandably so. Now, with measures being taken to enforce social distancing, teams will have to make a decision on Tagovailoa without assessing him in person before the draft this coming month. In a normal year, you could honestly make the argument that Tua should be the number 2 overall pick, maybe even number 1. A high-level team executive told Miller on Sunday, but because you're taking a third party's word for it when it comes to his medicals at this point in time, the teams are just going to be hesitant, basically. And Herbert is obviously not without fault. At the 2019 season, Miller noted some concerns about his mental aspects for the 22-year-old who may lack the presence and gregarious nature necessary for a franchise quarterback and for the present era. I think people were worried about his leadership and me being a quiet guy, Herbert said back in January. But I would say I'm not too quiet. I talk your ear off, so there are things I want to be transparent with and give a good representation of myself. So yeah, that is interesting because there are very few people, if any at all, who would say for certain that on the field Tua is worse than Herbert. And also this is from another article. This is from Saturday Down South. Again, using Matt Miller's analysis. He said, like I said, we already talked about he could potentially be the third quarterback taken, but apparently on some boards he has them. People have him all the way down at QB4, so I guess that's behind Jordan Love potentially, which is even more absurd. And I think all it has to do, apparently some things, and it's not actually all injuries. One team's source explained that they have knocked Tua for an all-white supporting cast that often saved him when plays broke down. Another mentioned poor interviews and board work during county combine meetings, which again is whatever. Tua's accuracy and vision are exceptional, and he's a very good prospect with the starter traits. But it's worth noting that not everyone sees him as a lock to be the second quarterback drafted. But also, to be fair, Matt Miller did also say that he liked Jake Fromm ahead of Tua in April of 2019, so that's not true. at all. And no one would believe that. But yeah, it's just one of those things where it's just like, alright, do you take the better player with the injury history or the guy who's probably at least a little bit worse, but is healthy? And again, that's healthy in college. A lot of people are healthy in college and get to the league, and then they have different injuries. And a lot of people also that got injured in college also get injured in the league. So you just like injuries, again, as I've discussed on this podcast, are unpredictable, in my opinion. There's very few things that you're certain of in terms of injury aspect. Like very few, even if a guy is quote unquote injury prone, doesn't mean he's going to get injured in the exact same way all the time. Or I guess, like I said, if he does, then that's what I refer to as injury prone. If a guy just gets nicked up in different ways a lot of times, I wouldn't necessarily argue he's injury prone. I'd argue he's unlucky. Because again, just being in, some people get hit a certain way and they get injured. Some people get hit in the exact same way and they're perfectly fine. You see that all the time throughout games. You'll see guys take like a nasty hit or what looks like a nasty hit, or like be hit wrong and like get rolled up on or plant that leg, and it looks bad, and then they walk off the field and they'll be fine. Or maybe not even necessarily be fine, but they won't have a serious injury. They might have something that you can deal with in a couple of weeks, as opposed to having a season-ending injury. So I'm saying it's all relative and it's all kind of luck. So that's the things that do. If I'm a GM, do I risk taking the quote unquote worst prospect because I'm concerned about health? And it's a fair question to ask. And like I said, that's what I thought was going to be an issue with the no in person, with the Rona situation, just because people wouldn't be able to answer these questions in person. And very few teams are going to risk, and very few executives, GMs, are going to risk their job over a guy who's a medical evaluation they have to get from a third party, which again, as the Saturday Down South article mentioned, and that's a fair. That part is a fair point. You want to see your team doctors look at him, not the team doctors from a different team. Literally, you don't want that. You want to have your own guys, because these are guys that are going to be dealing with him. So you want them to have an idea of what to expect. And if they say, "Nah, I don't think this is going to ever be right," then you're not going to touch them. Right now, it's like I said, different. Everybody's draft board looks a little bit different. There's different factors that go in. There's different medicals that go in. There's some people who may be a medical red flag on somebody's board, may not be a medical red flag on a different person's board, and that's obviously how they end up. Different players end up on different teams. But yeah, it's just it was an issue that I worried about with Tua, and like I said, you could make a legitimate argument that he should go number one if he wasn't hurt. But again, he is, so that you can't take that away, and that's kind of the issue. Though I will say, I guess back to the New York Post article from, I guess it was a few days ago. But the supporting cast situation, while fair, you could also apply to Joe Burrow. So it's like, again, having good players around you can elevate an average quarterback to a good quarterback, yes. But at the same time, you still have to make all the throws. That's how I feel. Also, I guess you're also going to say, if you didn't, as a person that watched more Oregon football than I probably should have this season, Oregon receivers, not good. Their offense, not really all that dynamic and creative, in my opinion, in terms of like their passing game. The running game is excellent because they have a great offensive line. But their passing game was like pretty And this is me just watching the games. Obviously, I don't watch like the All-22 or the coaches film or whatever, but just watching the games, and like they didn't seem to be too much creativity, and they seemed many times to be willing to take the ball out of Herbert's hands or make him make simple throws as opposed to letting him go out there and try to win the game, which is an interesting thing. Because I'm like, in college, if his team wasn't even willing to risk having him lose the game because they were just like they're just going to run the ball and make short throws or not be aggressive late in the games, that seems like it would be an indictment, at least a little bit, on the quarterback now. Maybe it's just incompetent coaching from their aspect, but you could also argue that it has something to say about the quarterback and him not being a guy who's maybe not being a guy who they thought could handle having the entire thing on his shoulders. Though obviously, if you watch the Rose Bowl game, they utilize him more running than they normally have. But again, he's had his throughout the season throughout his career. I think last year Stanford game was a good example of that, where they had a big lead and they blew it because they got too conservative, and part of that was because they didn't want to have Justin Herbert throwing the ball, whatever reason that is. I don't know. I'm not the coach, but I'm saying that should say something about that, and obviously that's not a thing with Tua per se. Though again, they have better receivers, so I'm saying it's hard to judge like how you judge a guy when his supporting cast is too good versus when his supporting cast isn't good enough. Like, there are many quarterbacks that play on teams whose supporting casts aren't going to be what they're going to have at the NFL level. But you could also argue that what Tua had at Alabama is not going to be as good as wherever he goes. Potentially. Obviously, if he goes to the Chargers, then Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are up there with what he had in Jerry Jeudy, Ruggs, and Waddle, and Devontae Smith. Like, that's up there with them. But again, if you send them to the Dolphins, all they have is Devontae Parker. So, like I said, environments and circumstances and situations matter. So it's like, I wouldn't be shocked if he's the second quarterback, but I also wouldn't be shocked if he in the right scenario, say like a San Diego. San Diego. LA. My bad, Chargers fans that may or may not be listening to this. If he's in LA, like I said, with Keenan Allen, with Mike Williams, if they decide to bring in try to find that third receiver with Hunter Henry when he's healthy, Austin Eckler, who's a great running back out of the backfield. They have weapons, which aren't going to be that much worse than what Tua had at Alabama, so maybe he'll be fine there. But again, if he goes to the Dolphins, then they really just have Devontae Parker and over running back. They're going to have to be drafting everybody, which they can, because they have 14 picks in this draft. So, circumstances matter, but I would be worrisome of taking a lesser quarterback just because of injuries. Because again, that's the thing that may correct itself. I know, like a guy like Matt Stafford was injured a lot early in his career, then up until this year had gone through many games, never got hurt, or hadn't got hurt in years. So even though you may be injury prone early, you may get lucky from there, and then you don't really get any injuries. Because I mean, I know he had some ankle and some knee, but that hip injury was like a real freak thing. That's not a common thing that happens. It's not like his hips normally popping out of place or whatever. So would I be worried? Yes. But would that force me to take an potentially inferior player? I don't know if I'd go that far. But again, I'm not a GM, so teach his own. Though again, not every GM nails every pick, so it's hard to say for certain. But yeah, no, that's just my opinion. I don't know. I know for certain, in my opinion, I would take Tua over Justin Herbert, all things equal, 100 times out of 100. But all things aren't equal, so I'm not surprised that people are afraid to do that. Now, Jordan Love, that's completely a separate story. I don't know how you could, unless you think you have the greatest coaching staff and quarterback coach in the world to coach him up, because again, he's a little bit of a raw prospect. I know some people try to compare him to Mahomes. I mean, Mahomes was putting up crazy numbers at Texas Tech, even though, again, he wasn't winning that many games, but the numbers were absurd. Jordan Love was not doing that, so I don't know if I would go that far with the Mahomes comparison, but I mean, hey, we'll see. We will see if that does in fact happen, and if it does, all right, more motivation for Tua, I guess, whenever he gets back out there. But like I said, I'm not taking the inferior player if all things else are equal. But again, I'm also not a GM, so hard for me to judge. But yes, we'll see what happens with Tua. It's a shame. Hopefully he can stay healthy throughout his career, because again, in college he was a great talent. Should be a great talent in the NFL if he can stay healthy. But again, your best ability is availability, so we'll see about that. And speaking of availability, there is a big-time free agent, or one of the big-time free agents that hit the market that's still out there, as we've discussed. But now there's a new team that could potentially be in pursuit of his talents. So we'll talk about, again, that player and who this new not mystery team, but this new team is that could come and try to swoop him at the last moment, and how the fit may work. So yeah, we'll talk about all that right after this break. Stay tuned.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. to which conference is the best. We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Jadeveon Clowney, still out there, still available. Why? Not exactly sure, but it is believed it is because his price a little too high. He wants the bag. I understand. You're only a free agent, but so many times in your career, so you want to try to make them. And you're in NFL while standing for the National Football League. Also stands for not for long. So you want to get as much money as you can while you're still healthy and able to play and all that fun stuff. So, with that being said, it makes sense as to why, if I'm free agent, I want to hold up for the most money I can get. Especially if I've been in the league, kind of been in the league 5 years now, so this was all the franchise tag last year, so he doesn't want him to take a big drop off in money, but he also has to make sure that he can still get signed by someone, and that's kind of been his issue right now, is his number may have well been too high. That's kind of why he's stuck at the moment. But doesn't mean he doesn't have suitors, and there is a new suitor that is looking for his services, and that is none other than the Cleveland Browns, apparently. They just are collecting everybody. I mean, because that worked so well for them last year, unfortunately, but maybe this fit will be a little bit better. But yeah, so per ESPN's Jeremy Fowles from CBS Sports, the Browns have shown interest in Clowney, and some people around the league believe Cleveland got closer with Clowney than the other suitors. Whether this gives Cleveland the inside track to land Clowney services remain to be seen, but the Browns have certainly checked in on the defensive end's asking price. Obviously, Cleveland already has Myles Garrett and Olivier Vernon at defensive end and signed Adrian Claiborne to a 2-year deal earlier this week, so the Browns aren't exactly needy of a pass rusher. And Garrett had 10 sacks and 39 pressures before he got suspended for 6 games to end the 2019 season, but Vernon only had 3.5 and 25 pressures in 10 games and can be cut to create $15.5 million in cap space. I knew his contract from the Giants was big. I didn't know they could save that much space for him. So, in theory, you just cut him because you're not going to pay that much for a guy to sit on the bench. So you cut him and replace him with Clowney, who's younger and better. So there is that. Though again, sack numbers low. Outside of that, his numbers are fine. He has 32 sacks over the course of his career. And he's in the league for 6 seasons. I thought it was only 5. But 6 seasons, 80 quarterback hits, 252 pressures, and 3-time Pro Bowler. He's also graded out exceptionally well via Pro Football Focus. If you follow that stuff, their opinions are a little iffy depending on what they talk about. So I understand if not everybody's a big supporter of all the analytical stuff for Pro Football Focus. But I mean, they necessarily, generally speaking, they do good work, and people at least pay attention to their grades and stuff to a degree. In this past season, he's done well, especially over the last 2 years with them. He finished with 31 tackles, 3 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, 13 quarterback hits, and 47 pressures in 13 games this past season. But was hampered for majority of the second half of the year with the core muscle injury, which could explain why sack numbers were low. He's also had some other injuries throughout his career, so that's maybe another reason why people are a little bit worrisome. Apparently he had surgery on the injury. Not apparently, he had surgery on the injury already, so it shouldn't affect him for the 2020 season, assuming we even have it. But if we do, he should be fine. And Clowney reportedly lowered his asking price from north of $20 million per season to $17-18 million range, which may have been why Cleveland now has entered the mix. The Titans and Seahawks are also interested in Clowney. It is believed, even though Seattle will have to maneuver some cap space around, because they currently only have a little under $15 million per over the cap, Though I guess, obviously you could just structure it where he's not getting paid that much this coming season. But I don't know. We'll have to see how that would work out. Cleveland has the most cap space in the NFL. Is that true? Cleveland has the most cap space in the NFL at $43 million, and can create much more by parting ways with Vernon. Obviously, as we mentioned, so signing Clowney isn't really that big of an issue, and we'll have to see if they get the job done. I have to look that up because I did not know that. Well, obviously they haven't really spent that much in free agency, so that would make sense. But I didn't know they had the most left. I know that was the funny thing. The Chiefs. The Chiefs. I think they were at before they did some restructuring or whatever. They had what was it, $177, not even $177,000, literally $177, which is kind of absurd. I believe that was true. Yeah, no, it was. I just saw the tweet from Field Yates, but yeah, that's kind of funny. I gotta see, is that true? No, I did not know that. Oh, okay, I see. So, again, this is March 30th, so this is from a couple weeks. This was from a little while ago, so maybe there's been some adjustments made. But Houston was at 1 with a little over $49 million. Jets were at 2 with $45, though I know they signed Perryman since March 30th, I think, or somewhere around that time. So maybe it's dipped up and down. This is from Field Yates. And Cleveland was third at 43.7. So maybe they have the most now. But yeah, even if they don't have the most, they still near the top of the league in terms of cap space. So again, the money's not the issue. But that's an interesting fit for them, because obviously being opposite Myles Garrett should help out Clowney, and obviously should help out their pass rush. But we would say the same thing about being opposite J.J. Watt. Though again, J.J. Watt was in and out of the lineup the last couple of years due to injury, or when they played, it's not his numbers have been amazing when they've been together. I know we've talked about this in the past, but I think the most he's ever had in a season was, I think it was only 9.5. I don't even think he's had double-digit sacks in a season. I will double-check this for you guys, because again, I try to be as accurate as possible on these things. But yeah, so his career high was in 2017, and he had 9.5 sacks. So again, in 2017, I'm assuming J.J. Watt played. I think he was still. Did he play that much? He don't see his name, so that could probably be the issue. Oh, so yeah. So then let me look up. So now I look up J.J. Watt's stats to see when he was actually playing. But yeah, that's all I know is that he's never had double-digit sacks playing opposite. 2016 and 2017 he played a combined 8 games. So in 2018 he played 16. Clowney's sack numbers was 9, which is not bad, but again, not $20 million worth. 2015 he played 16 games. 2014 he played 16 games. And in those 2 seasons he had 20.5 and 17.5 collectively. Respectively. While, again, Clowney had in 2015 and 2016... he had all of 4.5 and 6 sacks. So, and granted, if one guy's getting all the sacks, it's hard for multiple people have double-digit sacks on the same team. But in fairness, you would think J.J. Watt's getting most of the attention. So, as much as the idea of pairing him with Clowney sounds intriguing and should be this should work out really well together. Seeing as he hasn't put up big numbers opposite J.J. Watt, who's arguably the edge rusher of his generation. Him and Von Miller really are probably the 2 best of their time, period. Then it's hard to say that he'll be great alongside anybody. And obviously, as we saw with Vernon, though, again, I think Clowney's better than Olivier Vernon. But Vernon only had 3.5 sacks opposite Garrett this past year through 10 games. Even I think about it, that might be what he had for the season. But yeah, he played 10 games where Garrett didn't really have a great year opposite him. So again, if you have guys getting all the pressure, it was not like a Dante Fowler situation where Dante Fowler was on the same line as Aaron Donald, And he was great after they traded for him in 2018, and then now it's his past year. He had a good season again. I think had a career high in sacks. So, all right, cool. You have the one guy getting all the attention. Other guys should be able to eat. And Clowney hasn't been eating yet. So, I mean, again, give the Browns credit for being willing to try stuff, though this is a different group. Though I think, Andrew Bears was with the Eagles last year, and I know they were trying to trade for Clowney. So I don't imagine you wouldn't like him. Especially if, like I said, if it was reported the Eagles were in on trading for him, though we don't know exactly how in they were. But if that is to be believed, then it would make sense that the Browns would then try to trade for him. Try to sign him because, again, we have people that were from that front office. So that's interesting, to say the least, just to see if that goes through. But yeah, I'm not overly excited about the fit, just because, again, Clowney's never really been a great pass rusher, though. Again, he can move around a little bit. It definitely doesn't make the defense worse, because he's an improvement over Vernon. So just that alone is good, and they can save all that money that they're spending on him and give it to Clowney so you don't lose all that much in terms of cap space and all that stuff. But at the same time, it's not like, again, I'm not paying $20 million to a guy who's never had double-digit sacks in his career, though. Again, sacks aren't the be-all, end-all. There's more to defense than just sacks, like quarterback hits, quarterback pressures, how well you stop the run, all that stuff. So I know he's good at those other things, but again, I would like to see my guys get home at least a little bit. Because while quarterback hits and pressures and hurries can affect the quarterback, obviously, very few. If you sack a quarterback, there was some stat I've seen. I don't know the exact numbers. I know usually when you sack a quarterback on a drive, that drive typically doesn't really go that well for the offense. So again, once you get a sack, that puts especially if it's between 5 and 10 yard sack, that puts the offense way behind the 8 ball. So even that may be better than pressuring a guy. Maybe you pressure a guy and he misses or overthrows a pass or isn't able to get the ball out there. So they don't lose any yards, they don't gain any yards. But if you sack a guy and then now you move them back, and then when they have to punt, now you could potentially get better field position. So I am curious to see the different effects of that kind of thing. But like I said, Clowney would be an upgrade for the Browns. So see if they go after it. Like I said, I would be wary of paying a guy $20 million that's never had $20 million a year on average that's never had double-digit sacks. Personally. But again, like I said in the last episode, not a GM. These guys are more than welcome to do what they want. Like I said, I'm surprised. I was trying to say shocked and surprised at the same time. But I'm surprised that he hasn't been signed yet, and I would think it's coming soon. But, at this point, what's the rush? Honestly, at this point, why would we... If I'm him or if I'm the teams, why would I be in a big hurry to sign him? Because again, it's not like he's going anywhere, unless you're just really afraid that someone else will go out and get him. Which, again, you could have been before then. It's been a couple weeks since free agency started, so you think if you were that worried, you would have got the deal done already, and no one has. So I'm interested as to why, but hey, maybe it'll be coming this week. We shall see. But yeah, after this last break, we're going to come back and we're going to discuss, as we talked about, the Dolphins have a lot of draft picks. And with those draft picks, they could, stay put, do the normal regular thing, just pick the people where they're selected, where they're slotted, I should say. Or they can make a drastic move and trade up. And there's rumblings out there, rumors out there, that could very well be the plan if the Bengals oblige. So we'll talk about that, talk about if the move up makes sense, and also talk about if a trade back makes sense for the Bengals. And then we'll attack all sides of this right after the break. Stay right there.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and One Championship. We got the fights covered. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
the Dolphins. They are a team with, like I said, I believe 14 draft picks in this draft alone. Okay, so this is from the Dolphins website as of March 11th. They have 3 firsts, 2 seconds, a third, a fourth, 3 fifths, a sixth, and 3 sevenths this year. So that is 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13. Wait, hold on. It says 14. So 3, 2, 5, 6, 7, 10. Yes, 14. My bad. I just did the math wrong. But yes, they have 14 picks in this draft alone. Now, is it realistic they will make all those selections? Probably not, because again, that's just a lot to have to. There's just a lot to have to. That's just a lot of picks to make by one team. 14 picks is a lot. You're not going to add 14 guys to. You're going to add 14 rookies to your team. That's unrealistic. But that doesn't mean that they can't use them for other purposes. One of those purposes could be the trade up. I mean, I know there have been rumors floating around that they may trade up to like 3 with the Lions to get, because I know the Chargers may potentially be another team looking for a quarterback, though they have said on many different occasions that they're giving Tyrod Taylor a chance, which again is cool, because they may very well they may not be lying in that. They may very well be giving Tyrod Taylor a chance, but it doesn't mean they may not bring in some other competition for him, because they haven't signed like a real other backup. I believe they drafted either they drafted or signed as a free agent Easton Stick from North Dakota State last year. So they have, I think they think he's still on their roster, but they haven't signed anybody else. People talk about them going out to sign Cam or wherever. They haven't done it yet. So that means that they're probably going to bring another quarterback at some point, and that quarterback may very well be in the first round of the draft. So people have talked about the Dolphins trading up to 3 to, like I said, get ahead of the Chargers, because 2. Then I don't think Washington trading back from 2, because I mean, you're not going to pass the chance to take Chase Young, I believe. We'll see what happens. The draft is crazy. But yes, the potential trade up to 3, so you don't have to worry about, because Chargers could trade up to 3 or 4, even Panthers could trade up to 3 or 4 to get Tua and Herbert or whatever quarterback is left after Burrow goes. Potentially. Again, assuming the Bengals take Joe Burrow. But along with that, if they didn't want to do that, then they could, or if they wanted to trade up, be like, 3's not going to cut it, because we want Joe Burrow. Like, after doing the evaluation on Tua, we've already talked about may be hurt by the medicals, and Dolphins may view that the same way. After viewing Herbert and be like, I don't know if this guy's worth trading up for, maybe they'd be willing to try to see if they could trade up to number 1 for Joe Burrow. Now, I'm not saying that the Bengals will agree with that, but I mean, like I said, when you have 3 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks, it makes things a little bit more interesting in terms of potentially being able to do that. Like I said, I think they have the Texans first next year too, along with their own. So they have, and I think they might have like an extra second-round pick too. Like they have other ammunition to use if they so choose. Did not mean for that to rhyme, but it did. Oh, their first and second round pick. Yikes. I forgot about that. No, God. I mean, I know we discussed Bill O'Brien and his interesting history of trades, but I forgot that they gave him the second round pick, too. Goodness alive. Okay. So, yeah. So then they have 2 first and 2 seconds next year, and that's to add to whatever other picks they may or may not have, and they may or may not get between now and then. So, if I'm the Bengals, do I risk missing out on my potential quarterback answer at the quarterback position to fill the other holes on my team? Because they have other holes on their team to fill. They need a third receiver, which could very well be a first or second receiver, because, again, they brought A.J. Green back, I believe, on the franchise tag. But he's been injured. He missed all of this past season. He's only back if he's on the franchise tag, it's a 1-year deal. You don't really know how much longer he's going to be there. If things don't go well this year, if things don't look to improve, he may very well be on the way out. I mean, they have Tyler Boyd, but you need somebody else because John Ross, while he looked good early in the year, got hurt again, which is not uncommon for him, unfortunately. So you got to figure out that. They need another tight end. They need to make improvements on their offensive line. Their entire defense at almost every level except for safety Jesse Bates, I believe is his name. And I think the corner William Jackson III, I believe. So outside of those two, they probably need help at all three levels. In terms of, because even at the line, they got like Gio Atkins, who's getting older. I got to see if Carlos Dunlap is still there. I know he's been on the Bengals for a little bit. Yeah, no, he's still there, but he's getting older. He's 31. Yeah, good season last year, but again, he's getting older. Who was the other guy they have? Carl Lawson, I believe. On the Bengals, yep, he's still there. He's a younger guy, but he only had 5 sacks last year. So again, not exactly. As we discussed, sacks aren't the be-all and end-all. But again, you'd like your guy to have more than 5 sacks. We only played in 12 games and only started 2 of them, so it's not like he's necessarily an answer for the team. I mean, their team as a whole kind of struggled from a defensive aspect. The most sacks anybody had was Carson Dunlap, who had 9, and Sam Hubbard had 8.5. So yeah, they need some pass rush help. From a tackling standpoint, they had like Nick Vigil. Yeah, Jesse Bates was his name. Nick Vigil played a lot. He's all right. Jermaine Pratt played a lot. He was all right. They need help at the linebacker position. Need help in the secondary, as I said. They only had some guy named Darius Phillips in 8 games at 4 picks. Okay, but outside of that, they had Jesse Bates at 3, and everyone else had 1. Not really all that great. Pass defense, Jesse Bates had 9, Carlos Dunlap had 8. This Phillips guy again had 7. So he was good. William Jackson III did not have as good of a season as I thought he did. So maybe Darius Phillips is going to be the answer there for the Bengals. Oh, that's interesting. Did not know that. Okay. But yeah, so they probably need help at the corner position. Like I said, they need help at basically all 3 levels. I mean, the other safety, Sean Williams, I know he was solid for them this past year, but again, he's another guy that's getting a little bit older. That's the thing, because they had from the old Marvin Lewis regime, they had a bunch of older guys. Yeah, 29 is not that old, but again, it's getting a little bit older. You gotta start to look towards the future. So they need to get some of the old guys, and then begin to find replacements for like the Dunlaps, the Atkins of the world, the Sean Williams of the world, probably getting a third linebacker, or maybe even a second linebacker, because again, most teams usually want to play 2 linebackers at this point. Probably get another corner, depending on if this Darius Phillips guy is the answer, which he might be. Maybe get some competition for William Jackson, as I said. I thought he played better than he did this past year. At least in terms of the stats. I don't know what his PFF or grades or stuff like that were. But yeah, so they need help there. So they're a team that could use, with the multiple holes they could use extra picks. So I'm like, if I'm them, do you take the number 5, 18, maybe their second, because you probably won 3 of their first 4 picks this year. I don't think you're going to get all 3 first. It's probably a lot. But say you get their first, because they have 2 seconds. So their first, their 5, 18, what are the other numbers? Let me go back. So 5, 18. Okay, so you have 5, 18, either 39 or 56. Probably 39. I'll give them 39 because again you have 26. The Dolphins would. And then one of the first or a second next year. One of the Texans extra first or second next year. So 4 picks to trade up. Maybe you might need to have to trade up more. But yeah, it's just like, would you do that if you're the Bengals? I don't like. That's where it's tricky because you say that the quarterback position is the hardest to find, and that's kind of the ones that complete your team. So you would think that that'd be the one once you get that position, you can kind of figure other things out from there. But it's just risky because if you look at the teams that have traded back in recent history, at least this is just the last couple years. This is when I'm talking about the RG3s and stuff like that from years ago. So you have the Rams and Eagles in 2016. So the Rams gave up their first, 2 seconds, and a third in 2016, along with the first and third in 2017 to the Titans, who sent back a fourth and a sixth to grab Jared Goff. I mean, obviously it took the Titans a few years to find their place in that quarterback because thought they had Mariota. Didn't really work out with him. Had to go to Tannehill. The Eagles surrendered 77 and 100, as well as a first-round pick in 2017 and a second-round pick in 2018 to the Browns to grab Wentz. The Cleveland added a 2017 additional fifth. See how that worked out. It worked out to a degree for the Eagles because obviously he didn't win them the Super Bowl. We got them in position. And the Browns still trying to figure things out. And most of the guys they picked during that time aren't even really on the team. Or if they're all on the team, they're not really as good. So there is that. Like I said, they took Baker. And you could probably say at this point in time right now, Carson's better than Baker. So maybe it wasn't worth it. Look at in 2017, you had the Texans involved in a 3-team trade. I guess they traded for the I don't know because they said they involved in a 3-team trade, but I think it was involved in like the Browns and Eagles pick trade from like the year before. But regardless, they traded up, giving up a first in 2017 and first in 2018 or I guess the swap of first, and then a first in 2018 to get Watson. The Chiefs surrendered 2 firsts, obviously the one in 2017, the swap, and then one in 2018, as well as a third-round pick to move up to 10 to grab Mahomes. Obviously that paid off. It paid off for both of those teams. And then the Bills in this was 2017. And obviously Mitch Trubisky, the Bears traded up, gave up the third, the 2 round 1 picks, one in 2018 and the 4th round selection to move up 1 spot, which is kind of absurd. And then you have the year after that, the Ravens traded a 2nd and a 4th along with the 2019 second to get the 32nd overall pick from the Eagles to draft Lamar Jackson. That worked. The Cardinals gave up 15, 79, and 152 to the Oakland Raiders for the 10th selection to draft Josh Rosen. The Bills sent their own 2018 first to move up 7th overall, so giving up 2 second-round picks and getting the last pick of the draft from the Bucks. The Jets sent 6, 37, and 49 plus a 2019 second-rounder to the Colts for the 3rd. So I think Colts selected Quentin Nelson with that pick. So that one worked. Everyone else, you could say, the team that traded back didn't really get all that much out of trading back. Oh, well, the Eagles also drafted Dallas Goedert, who paired with Ertz, you could say, is the best tight end tandem in the league. All right, but I'm just saying, it's from recent history, trading back doesn't really seem to be that worthwhile to me. The teams that trade back don't really get, though they get a good haul, they don't, most of these teams are bad for a reason, so maybe they don't pick the right people, or the fits aren't right, or whatever. So usually the trade backs don't normally work out. Especially when you're trading up for quarterbacks. So, Jared Goff won a Super Bowl. He was not that good this past year, but went to Super Bowl. Eagles won a Super Bowl, in partly because of Carson Wentz. Deshaun Watson's been great. Mahomes, obviously. That goes without saying. Mitch Trubisky, very shaky, clearly. So there's that. Josh Allen helped the Bills get to the playoffs. Lamar Jackson won MVP. Josh Rosen not on the Cardinals, so that was a mistake. And then Sam Darnold was thought to could potentially take that second-year leap, but then obviously the whole Miles situation threw him off. But if you look at the hit rate on the guys that trade up as opposed to teams that trade back, has been a lot higher. So if I'm the Dolphins, I'm doing this. But if I'm the Bengals, if that's my guy, especially when most of these other teams didn't need a quarterback when they were in these spots. They didn't really, they had a quarterback, or from the Browns, they said they didn't think Wentz was going to be that good. So they're like, all right, well, we don't want him, so... And that may or may not have been a mistake. But they didn't want him, so it's all right, okay, we'll trade back. But generally speaking, the team don't want a quarterback, that's why they're trading back. While the Bengals, it sounds like they want to move on from Andy Dalton, so they need a quarterback. So it wouldn't make any sense if I'm the Bengals. Even if you get, like I said, you get 3 of the Dolphins' top 4 picks, plus a first rounder next year. And again, you're only moving back to 5, so there could still be a quarterback there at 5. if none of these guys are really that, if everybody's pretty close in the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks for you. But if you want Joe Burrow, then just take him. That's kind of how I was with you. If you have a quarterback that you like, do whatever. And also, that's why, from the Dolphins' perspective, if I want Joe Burrow bad, they also would trade as many picks as it was necessary. Because, again, if you have a great quarterback, that can kind of cover up, in many cases, the other holes you may have in your team, especially when you have a quarterback on a rookie deal for 4 to 5 years. Well, again, it's normally 3, because then after the 3rd year, most of them sign the extension. So for 3 years, you have a rookie quarterback, and you can go out and sign big names or trade for big names or whatever, because you have the cap space to do it, because you're not paying your quarterback that much. And obviously, the Dolphins don't really have any issues with the cap space for them. So yeah, it's like, hey, if I'm the Dolphins, I would do whatever to trade up. If I'm the Bengals, I wouldn't trade back, because again, if I need a quarterback, I'm taking the quarterback. I'm not being like, oh, I'll just take Tua or Justin Herbert or whoever's available at 5. No, that's a bad idea. If you like a quarterback, get him. Take him. And the same thing, like I'm saying, for the Dolphins, if you like a quarterback, trade up. Do whatever you can to trade up for him. So I'm interested to see how that will play out, because from both sides, I could see why the Bengals would want to trade back. I see why the Dolphins would want to trade up. I could see why, and also could see why the Bengals would want to stay put, because they need a quarterback. As we discussed, and this is from Fansided, this article. This is from last year, before obviously the Kyler Murray and draft. But when you see what those, so I didn't include any trade ups in that one, which I don't remember if there were any off the top of my head, but there could have been. But yeah, so this is just from the 3 drafts prior to that. So you see, for the teams that have traded up, they've been more successful than the teams that traded back in terms of overall success. Because the Eagles have had success when they traded back, but the Oakland, not really. Bucks, honestly, they have to go. It's not Tom Brady, but it took them a couple years to move on from Jameis. Colts got Quinn Nelson, so that's been a hit for them. So no issues there with them with the trade back from the Jets. The Niners got the Super Bowl, but Solomon Thomas wasn't the reason why. Let's just put it that way. And then the Bills traded back. Got Josh Allen next year, but Patrick Mahomes could have been better. Could have been worse. We don't really know how much of it is just him and how much of it is Andy Reid's help. And then whatever trade involving the Browns and the Dolphins for Deshaun Watson. The Texans are happy. I don't know if it was. I think it was, like I said, it might have been the Eagles pick that the Browns traded back. Traded to the Texans. Which, if that's the case, then again, they end up picking Baker Mayfield the next year, though. They could have had Deshaun, so there is that. Because I would take Deshaun over Baker. But yeah, so as I was saying, when you're looking at it, the teams that traded up have had more success, and then even going back to the Rams and the Titans, the Titans had just found their potential quarterback for the future in Tannehill, though obviously we don't really have the full slate of a full 16-game slate to view it on, and the Rams went to a Super Bowl. Now, was Jared Goff good this past year? No. But the Rams went to a Super Bowl. So the teams that trade up when they found their quarterback, they've had a lot of success. And that's my thing. If you have a quarterback you like, go and get him by any means. So if I'm the Dolphins, trade whatever many picks you have to do to get him. If I'm the Bengals and you like Joe Burrow, don't trade the pick. So we'll see what happens in the meantime, in between time, but that's just how I would view it. So we'll see if they're able to move, or maybe the Dolphins have settled for trading up to 3 to make sure they don't get jumped by the Chargers. But like I said, they're going to try to trade for one, potentially. Again, rumored. But if that is true, I've discussed how I would do it and why I would do it. And if I'm the Bengals and I like Joe Burrow, don't do it at all. Get your quarterback. You'll regret it. Because then it's like, what do you do at quarterback? Now you're going to go get Justin Herbert? I don't know. I'm going to take Justin Herbert over Tua or Joe Burrow. But again, not a GM. As I've said many times on this podcast. Not a GM. My next time on the line if I'm wrong about these evaluations. So, we'll see what happens with all that. But that'll do it for me here today on the GSMC Sports Podcast, presented by GSMC Podcast Network. I want to, as always, thank you for listening. I want to continue to remind you guys to wash your hands, social distance, try to stay safe whenever you do have to leave your house, whether it's the grocery store, wherever. If you have to, and if you're still working, if you're one of the essential workers, if you can work at a grocery store, you can work, your nurse, your doctor, whoever. Thank you for your help. Thank you for your service. I know it's rough out there. This month's probably going to be rough, as they said many times. Hopefully we can get through it, and there'll be brighter days ahead at some point. Don't know when that some point is, but hopefully there'll be brighter days at the end of this. So I said, stay safe, stay healthy, do what you can, and the sooner we do what is required of us to make sure that we flatten the curve, the sooner we'll be able to go back outside and enjoy our lives to whatever degree we can once all this stuff is cleared up a little bit. Obviously, it's not going to go away until there's a vaccine or a cure, but at least we could allow it so not as many people have it, so then the hospitals are better prepared when people do come in with it. So, like I said, try to stay safe out there. Yeah, that'll do it for me here. I want to remind you guys, as always, subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. Make sure you never miss an episode. If you could, please as well, give us a 5-star rating or a nice review. Very appreciated, very helpful. See what you guys like, what you guys didn't like, all that fun stuff. And also, if you're on social media, we're on social media, so you can find us there. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We can talk, we can chat, we can debate, we can discuss. You can tell me why Justin Herbert's better than Tua. You can tell me why you can tell me which guys you want to see in the horse competition. Because I know I mentioned some of my guys, but there may be other players out there that people would want to see in the horse competition take part. And like I said, I'm all ears. More than happy to discuss these things with you guys. And also, you can tell me why there's no doubt the NFL season will go on, and nothing I should be worried about. Which maybe there isn't, but again, I'll believe it when I see it at this point. But yeah. I've been Chris Blades. I want to thank you guys for taking the time out of your day for listening to me. That has been my time. And until next time, peace out.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.